Have you ever paused to consider what really happens when you stop chasing a woman? Welcome to today's deep dive into a question that's likely been on the minds of many of you, whether you're currently navigating these waters or have been through this before. Today, we're exploring the intriguing dynamics of silence. What actually transpires when you decide to pull back and stop talking to a woman? More crucially, how can you as a man harness this situation to regain your dignity and confidence? In this video, we'll uncover the typical reactions women might have when the chase ends and how their feelings and behaviors could shift. But there's a twist. We'll be applying the timeless wisdom of Stoicism to help guide us through these experiences. Stoicism teaches us about resilience, emotional control, and the power of stepping back to assess our lives from a broader perspective. By incorporating these principles, you can learn how to stay composed and self-assured, even when faced with uncertainty or silence from someone you care about. Join us as we dissect these personal encounters and share strategies to not just cope, but thrive and find a deeper sense of self-worth through Stoic philosophy. If this discussion sparks your interest or resonates with your current situation, don't hesitate to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking content, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Now, let's get started. Number 1. Initial shock and confusion. When you stop talking to a woman, one of the first things you'll notice is an initial shock or confusion on her part. This is completely natural. Communication, which was once consistent or even frequent, has suddenly come to a halt. She may start to wonder what happened, why you've gone silent, and question her own actions or even her place in your life. It's a moment of uncertainty for her, and it may trigger all kinds of emotions, from curiosity to frustration. But here's where Stoicism can offer clarity. One of the core teachings of Stoicism is to focus only on what we can control, our own thoughts, actions, and responses. You see, her confusion or shock isn't something you can or should try to fix. You have no control over how she feels or what she thinks when you stop talking. And, according to Stoic principles, spending energy trying to manage someone else's emotional response is a futile effort. Instead, your focus should remain on what you can control, maintaining your emotional balance, keeping your composure, and reflecting on your own behavior. Let's say you've been the one initiating conversations, sending messages, or making plans. Over time, you notice the dynamic feels unbalanced. Maybe you feel like you're chasing her or giving more than you're receiving. So, you decide to pull back. You stop initiating. At that moment, she may be left wondering, why isn't he talking to me anymore? This is where the confusion kicks in. But rather than rushing in to offer explanations or trying to resolve her feelings, you embrace the silence. This is a powerful moment, not just for her, but for you. Silence can be one of your greatest assets when used with intention. By stepping back, you create space for her to reflect on her own feelings and for you to regain your center. Stoicism teaches us that silence is not an empty void, but an opportunity for introspection and clarity. In the pause, you can observe your own emotions, letting go of any need to chase or seek validation. You stand firm, not out of indifference, but out of a recognition that you cannot control her reaction. Her thoughts and feelings are hers alone. In many cases, when a man stops chasing or talking to a woman, it allows her to reflect on the dynamic of the relationship. If she truly values the connection, your silence may prompt her to reevaluate her own role and actions. But more importantly, You're giving yourself the chance to reflect on whether this pursuit aligns with your own values and self-respect. As the Stoics believed, external circumstances, like whether or not someone gives you attention, should not dictate your inner peace. You remain in control of your emotions, whether or not someone else understands or reacts the way you might hope. The beauty of this approach is that it empowers you to stay true to yourself. By not chasing, by not reacting impulsively, you convey a sense of self-respect and emotional independence. You're demonstrating that your peace of mind is not contingent on her reaction. This creates a foundation of strength within yourself, where you're not swayed by external forces. You control your own emotional state, regardless of the noise around you. Now that we've explored how the initial shock and confusion can unfold, let's take a moment to reflect on the deeper Stoic principle at play: control. It's about understanding that the only person you can truly manage is yourself. And that shift in focus from external validation to inner peace is what makes this approach so powerful. By holding on to your own sense of calm, you're not just impacting how you feel in the moment. You're shaping the entire dynamic of your interactions. If this resonates with you, drop a comment sharing your thoughts, or simply type, "I choose inner peace," below. Your support helps keep the conversation going, and I'd love to hear your perspective before we dive into the next insight. Number 2. Reflection on the relationship. When you stop talking or chasing a woman, she might be confused or surprised, as people tend to react when a familiar dynamic suddenly changes. In her mind, she may start replaying events, conversations, and interactions to try to understand what caused the shift. This period is marked by reflection on her part, wondering what went wrong, questioning her role in the situation, and considering whether she did something to cause the silence. But here's the key from a Stoic perspective. While she's reflecting on the relationship, this is also the perfect time for you to reflect, not on what she's thinking or how she's reacting, but on yourself. Stoicism teaches us that we should focus only on what is within our control, and that means your thoughts, your actions, and your responses. Take a step back and reflect on the relationship from your perspective. Did you stay true to your values during the time you were together? Were you authentic in your actions? Or were you acting out of a need to chase, please, or win her approval? A Stoic would remind you that your worth doesn't come from how much someone else values you, but from your own commitment to living according to your principles. If you were constantly chasing her attention or sacrificing your own needs, this is a good moment to question why. Was it out of fear of being alone? Was it because you thought her validation was a reflection of your own value? Imagine you were texting her constantly, always being the one to initiate plans, and constantly seeking her attention. When you pull back and stop this behavior, it's likely she'll notice. But rather than waiting for her reaction or worrying about whether she'll come back, use this time to look inward. Did you lose yourself in the pursuit of her attention? Did you compromise your own boundaries or values just to maintain the connection? If so, this is an opportunity to recalibrate. Self-reflection in Stoicism is about acknowledging where you might have strayed from your true self and deciding how you can grow from the experience. Maybe you realize that you were too focused on her approval and not enough on maintaining your own self-respect. Or maybe you recognize that you were compromising too much of who you are just to keep the relationship going. This isn't about regret or self-blame. It's about using this moment to build a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. Instead of dwelling on what she's thinking or how she's reacting, focus on your own internal growth. This is where true power lies, in the ability to learn from every situation and emerge better than before. A woman may reflect on the relationship and perhaps even reconsider her feelings or actions, but that's outside of your control. What's within your control is how you choose to respond to this time of silence. Will you use it to grow? Will you use it to become more in tune with your own values and needs? That's what a Stoic would do. They would not sit around waiting for a text or hoping for reconciliation. Instead, they would embrace the opportunity to strengthen their character and deepen their understanding of what they truly want in life and relationships. Ultimately, when you stop chasing, you stop placing your happiness in the hands of someone else. You reclaim your own power, and that is what Stoicism teaches us. To find peace and contentment, not from external validation, but from our own steady commitment to living according to our values. So while she reflects on what happened, your focus should be on how you can grow, what you've learned, and how you can apply those lessons moving forward. This is the path to true inner peace and self-respect, the kind that doesn't depend on whether she comes back or not. Number 3, testing boundaries. This can come in various forms. Perhaps she sends a casual text out of the blue, or she posts something on social media that she knows will catch your attention. She might even try to stir up situations to see if you'll react or fall back into the dynamic where you were constantly pursuing her. This behavior isn't necessarily malicious. It's often just a way of gauging where you stand or seeing if she still holds power over your attention. In these moments, many guys make the mistake of reacting emotionally. They feel a sudden surge of fear of losing her for good, fear that she's moving on, or fear that their silence has backfired. Out of this fear, they react quickly. They respond immediately to her message, or they take the bait she's laid out, chasing after her once again. But here's the thing. When you do this, you're not acting from a place of strength. You're acting from insecurity. This is where Stoicism becomes essential. A Stoic man understands that his strength comes from within. He's grounded in his principles and remains unshaken by the whims of others. When a woman tests your boundaries after you've stopped chasing her, she's likely looking to see if she can still influence your behavior. But a Stoic man stands firm. He knows that what's within his control is his own actions, emotions, and thoughts. How she behaves, what she thinks, and whether she stays or goes is entirely outside of his control. And that's perfectly okay. For instance, a woman you've stopped chasing sends you a message after days of silence. She might be doing this to see if you'll immediately jump back into the conversation. Instead of reacting quickly out of excitement or fear of losing her, a Stoic man pauses. He reflects on whether responding aligns with his values and goals. Maybe you choose to respond, but your response is calm, measured, and not driven by a need to please or impress her. Or maybe you decide not to respond at all, realizing that engaging in that moment doesn't serve your best interests. Either way, your reaction, or lack of reaction, comes from a place of inner strength, not emotional impulsivity. It's easy to slip up here because we're conditioned to think that chasing after her attention will somehow win her over. But what often happens is that by constantly chasing, you lose your sense of self-respect and power. A Stoic man knows that he doesn't need to chase validation or approval from anyone, not even a woman he's attracted to. His worth isn't tied to her attention or affection. It comes from within. When you stand firm and maintain your boundaries, you're sending a powerful message. You're showing her, and more importantly, yourself, that your self-worth doesn't depend on her reactions or approval. Think of it like this. By not reacting to every test or provocation, you demonstrate emotional stability and confidence. Women, like anyone else, are drawn to strength. Not the kind of strength that comes from controlling others, but the strength that comes from controlling oneself. A Stoic understands that life will always present challenges and tests, whether from people or circumstances. The goal is not to avoid these tests, but to respond to them with wisdom and composure. When a woman tries to test your boundaries, she's subconsciously checking to see how grounded you are. If you react emotionally, she'll sense that you're unsure of yourself and seeking her validation. But when you maintain your composure and stick to your values, you show her that you are in control of yourself. This doesn't mean playing games or manipulating the situation. It's about being genuine and secure in who you are. You're not ignoring her to make her chase you. You're simply prioritizing your own peace of mind and self-respect. In the end, the Stoic man recognizes that true power comes from within. He doesn't need to chase, react, or prove anything to anyone. When a woman tests your boundaries, take it as an opportunity to demonstrate your strength, not by playing games or manipulating the situation, but by standing firm in your values. This shows that you don't need her validation or approval to feel whole. You are complete on your own, and that's the kind of strength that leaves a lasting impression. As we wrap up this thought, take a moment to reflect on how you've responded to situations like this in your own life. Have you found yourself chasing validation, or have you been able to stand firm in your values? Remember, growth comes from awareness, so don't be afraid to acknowledge where you might have faltered before. It's all part of the journey. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, so feel free to leave a comment sharing your experience. Or, if this resonates with you, simply type, "I control my actions, not hers." Let's continue the conversation as we move on to the next insight. Number 4. Seeking closure. Have you ever noticed how, when you stop talking to a woman, things suddenly shift? One moment, she seemed indifferent, and now she's seeking answers, asking questions, trying to figure out what went wrong. This is what we call seeking closure. It's one of the most common reactions when you stop engaging with someone who once had your attention. But here's the kicker. Do you really owe her that closure? Take this scenario. You were texting back and forth, maybe even went on a few dates, but then you felt like things weren't going anywhere. Maybe her energy wasn't matching yours, or you felt something was off. Instead of continuing to chase, you stop engaging. Days pass, and then she starts reaching out, asking for reasons. Why did you stop texting me? Did something happen? This is the moment when many feel the pressure to explain themselves. But here's where the Stoic mindset empowers you. You don't owe anyone an explanation that disturbs your inner peace. Think about it this way. Your peace, your mental clarity, is in your hands. If giving her closure means reopening a situation that was only going to drain your energy, then maybe it's not worth it. Stoicism teaches that we have control over our own responses, not other people's expectations. A woman might seek closure, but you are the one who gets to decide how much access you give to your thoughts, emotions, and time. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. In this context, the outside event is her seeking closure, but the power lies in how you choose to respond. Do you engage in a conversation that could reopen old wounds or pull you back into a situation you've mentally moved on from? Or do you let silence be the closure? In the end, seeking closure is a natural reaction, but it's important to remember that closure doesn't always require a conversation. Sometimes, the most stoic thing you can do is maintain your silence, keep your peace intact, and allow the unanswered questions to be the closure itself. This doesn't mean being cold or indifferent, but rather protecting your well-being by not engaging in every emotional demand. You control your peace. Let that be your guide. Number 5. Emotional responses. Imagine this. You've stopped chasing her, stopped initiating the conversations, the texts, the calls. You're no longer giving her that attention she once had from you, and suddenly, the emotional shift begins. You might notice she responds with anger, maybe sadness, or sometimes even relief. Each of these emotional reactions is a normal part of human nature. But as someone who embraces Stoicism, you don't have to let her emotions dictate your actions or your peace of mind. Let's dive deeper into how Stoic wisdom can guide you through this. The Stoics teach us that emotions, while intense, are temporary. They're like the weather, sometimes stormy, sometimes calm, but always changing. Her anger, sadness, or relief isn't something you need to immediately react to. It's her personal response to a change in the dynamic, and just as Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Suppose she reacts with anger when you stop talking to her. Maybe she sends you frustrated messages, or she vents to her friends. In moments like this, it's easy to get pulled into the storm, to feel the need to explain yourself or react defensively. But here's the Stoic approach. You remain calm, grounded. You recognize that her anger is hers to process, not yours to fix. You don't need to take on her emotional load. As Epictetus put it, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Or maybe she responds with sadness, sending messages about how much she misses your attention. It might stir something in you, a temptation to reach out and comfort her. But once again, Stoicism teaches us the importance of inner strength and emotional self-control. Her sadness is valid, but it's her journey to navigate. You don't have to step in and try to fix it or fill the void she's feeling. It's okay to let her experience that emotion and move through it without getting caught up in it yourself. And then, there's the possibility that she feels relief. Maybe she was already pulling away, and your decision to stop chasing her actually aligns with what she wanted. This can be surprising, maybe even a little hurtful. But here's where Stoicism offers another valuable insight. You can't control her reaction, only how you interpret and respond to it. If her relief means she's happier without your presence, then that's a clear indication of where things stand. And you should take it as a sign to move on with dignity and peace. At the core of Stoicism is this idea of control, understanding what is within your control and what isn't. You can't control how she reacts when you stop talking to her. Her emotions are hers alone. What you can control is how you respond to the situation. Do you let her emotions pull you back into the same dynamic, or do you stay steady in your decision, knowing that your peace of mind is your top priority? So, the next time you stop chasing and she reacts emotionally, whether it's anger, sadness, or relief, remember the Stoic lesson. Emotions are fleeting, but your inner calm can remain steady. Keep your focus on what you can control, let go of what you can't, and above all, protect your peace. As you reflect on these emotional responses, it's essential to take a step back and consider how often we allow others' emotions to dictate our own. This is a key area where Stoicism can provide immense strength. When you stop chasing and her emotions shift, it's not about what she feels. It's about how you handle it. So, before we move on to the next topic, I encourage you to take a moment to reflect on your own experiences. How have you reacted when faced with these emotional shifts in the past? Have you maintained your calm or been drawn into the emotional storm? Leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Your insights matter, and by sharing, you not only deepen your understanding, but also contribute to a community of like-minded individuals on this journey of self-growth. Let's continue this exploration together. Number 6. Evaluating your worth. Let's dive into something powerful that happens when you stop talking to her or stop chasing her. She begins evaluating your worth. This is a moment where many men get stuck in their own heads, spiraling with thoughts like, is she still interested? Does she see my value? What's she thinking about me now that I've pulled back? It's natural to wonder, but here's where a lot of guys go wrong. They start letting her opinion dictate how they feel about themselves. But the truth is, your worth is not based on anyone else's opinion. Not hers, not anyone's. And this is exactly where Stoicism can teach us something incredibly valuable. Stoic philosophy emphasizes that your value, your sense of self-worth, comes from within you. It's rooted in your character, your actions, and how well you live by your principles. It's not about how she reacts, what she thinks, or whether she comes running back. It's about who you are, with or without her validation. Think about it this way. When you stop chasing her, it forces a shift. She begins to think about the relationship, about you, and starts evaluating what role you've played in her life. Maybe she reflects on the stability you brought, the way you didn't let outside circumstances control you. But while she's doing this, you need to be grounded in your own self-worth, not depending on her to define it. The more you lean on external validation, whether it's from her texts, her compliments, or her attention, the further you stray from real, internal strength. Stoicism teaches us to remain unmoved by these external opinions, to focus instead on what's truly in our control: our actions, our mindset, and our principles. Let's say you've stopped reaching out to her, and now there's silence. Naturally, she's likely thinking about who you are and what you brought to the table. Maybe she's considering how steady you were, how calm and collected you always appeared, even under pressure. Maybe she's realizing that you never let yourself get rattled by the small stuff, and that showed a kind of strength that stands out. But while she's going through this mental process, you're not sitting there anxiously waiting for her next move. No, you're focusing on yourself. You're using this time to reflect, to make sure you're living up to your own standards, because that's where your real worth comes from. Here's the kicker. When you stop chasing, it gives her space to wonder. She might start missing your presence, the way you handled challenges with grace, or the way you never let yourself be ruled by emotions. And in that moment, she's reevaluating you. But whether she decides you're worth chasing back or not doesn't define you. Your value isn't something she can give or take away. That's what makes Stoicism so powerful in moments like this. It teaches you to stand firm in your character, to not be swayed by how others perceive you. Imagine the scenario. You've pulled back, stopped initiating, and now she's left thinking. She's evaluating you, maybe even realizing that you're not the kind of guy who's going to be easily swayed by emotions, by the ups and downs of every situation. That's attractive. Why? Because confidence rooted in your values, in your own self-worth, is magnetic. It shows that you don't need someone else's approval to feel good about yourself. This is why, when you stop chasing her, it's not the end of the world. In fact, it's a moment of power. You're showing that you're secure in who you are, that you don't need external validation to feel valuable. Your worth is already established. It's in how you handle yourself, how you treat others, and how consistent you are with your principles. That's what Stoicism teaches us. It's about being self-sufficient, about understanding that the only approval you truly need is your own. So, next time you find yourself in that situation, whether it's with her or anyone else, remember this: your worth is intrinsic. It's not based on whether she texts back, whether she sees you as valuable, or whether she's interested again. What matters is that you know your value, and that you live by it every day. When you do that, whether she comes back or not becomes secondary. You're grounded in something far deeper, your own character and your commitment to living by your principles, just like the Stoics taught. Number 7. Reaching out again. Imagine this: you've stopped chasing her. No more late-night texts, no more plans to meet up, no more reaching out. Silence. And then, after some time, she reaches out. It could be out of curiosity, maybe she misses the attention, or perhaps there's a part of her that wonders why you've suddenly pulled away. But here's the catch. What do you do when she reaches out again? Do you rush back in, eager to resume where you left off? Or do you take a step back and reflect? This is where Stoicism comes into play. Stoicism teaches us not to act on impulse or emotion, but to respond with purpose and reason. When she reaches out, don't let your immediate feelings take control. Yes, there might be excitement, or even hope that things will rekindle. But Stoicism reminds us of something crucial. You are in control of how you respond, not her. Instead of jumping at the chance to reply instantly or letting her message throw you off balance, take a moment. Breathe. Think about what is truly driving her message and, more importantly, how you want to respond. A Stoic man acts with purpose. You're not looking for external validation from her or trying to regain something you've lost. You're looking for clarity in your own actions and intentions. For example, let's say she sends you a casual message, something like, "Hey, it's been a while. How are you?" The old you might have seen this as an invitation to dive back in, to reignite the conversations you've been missing. But now, with Stoic principles guiding you, you respond calmly, without any desperation. Something like, "I'm doing well, thank you. Hope you're good too." Short, respectful, and composed. By not allowing yourself to get swayed by emotions or the hope of rekindling a past connection, you maintain your dignity and self-respect. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control: our reactions, our thoughts, and our actions. You cannot control why she's reaching out or what she hopes to gain from the conversation, but you can control how you respond. And that response should always reflect your inner strength, not any lingering attachment or need for her approval. When you stop chasing, the dynamic changes. Women often notice when the attention stops, and many will reach out just to see if they still have the same pull over you. But when you apply Stoic wisdom, you're no longer playing that game. You're responding from a place of self-respect and emotional balance, not from a need for external validation. So, next time she reaches out, remember, act with reason, not emotion. Hold on to your sense of peace and control. You don't need her to feel fulfilled. You already have everything you need within you. And that's the power of Stoicism in relationships. You're not swayed by fleeting feelings, and you're not driven by impulses. You're grounded, composed, and always in control of how you choose to respond. Number 8. Moving forward. Imagine this. You've stopped texting her, stopped chasing, and at first, there's a sense of uncertainty, maybe even doubt. What's going to happen now? Will she notice? Will she care? But here's the thing. What she does next isn't the point. The real transformation begins with you. And this is where stoicism comes into play. When you stop chasing, you're giving yourself the chance to regain control over your emotions. You're no longer driven by the need for validation or attention. Instead, you're focused on something much deeper: your self-respect, your values, your emotional strength. And trust me, this is the kind of confidence that radiates from within. Stoicism teaches us that our happiness doesn't come from external sources, like her replies, her attention, or her validation, but from our own internal peace. Now, let's talk about what she might do when you stop chasing. Maybe she'll reach out, realizing that your absence means something. Or maybe she won't. She might start to question things, wonder why you've pulled back, and possibly even try to get your attention again. Women are naturally intuitive, and when you stop giving them the same energy, it triggers curiosity. But here's the key. What she does or doesn't do isn't what matters. What truly matters is that you're no longer tied to the outcome. You're no longer obsessing over whether she's texting back or showing interest. Instead, you're moving forward. And this isn't just about moving on from her. It's about moving on from the need for external validation. Stoicism reminds us that we can't control other people's actions or emotions. What we can control is our own mindset, our own reactions. When you stop chasing, you're not giving up on her. You're letting go of the need to control the outcome. You're embracing the idea that whether she reaches out or not, you're fine either way, because your worth isn't tied to her response. Let's take an example. You decide to stop texting her after realizing you've been the one keeping the conversation going. Days go by, and at first, there's silence. You wonder if she's noticed, but then you start to notice something else. You feel lighter. You're not constantly checking your phone. You're not anxiously waiting for a response. And you're not overthinking your every move. Instead, you're more focused on your own life, your own goals. Maybe she eventually texts you back, or maybe she doesn't. Either way, you're not shaken. You've found peace in the uncertainty, and that's the beauty of Stoicism. You've shifted the focus from her to you. By letting go of attachment, you're giving yourself the freedom to live in the present moment. You're no longer weighed down by the what-ifs or the need for things to go a certain way. You're living in alignment with your values, and that's where true confidence and self-respect come from. At the end of the day, whether you reconnect or not is secondary. What matters is that you've gained something far more valuable: emotional resilience. You've learned that real dignity comes from acting in accordance with your values, not from chasing after someone else's approval. As we wrap up today's discussion, let's ponder a question that often perplexes many. What really happens when you decide to stop talking to a woman? The reactions can be varied and complex, yet what truly matters is not so much the reaction itself, but how you choose to handle the situation. By incorporating Stoic principles into your response, practicing emotional restraint, engaging in thoughtful self-reflection, and reaffirming your own intrinsic value, you can steer through these challenging interactions with poise and respect. It's essential to remember that true confidence is not about exerting control over others. Rather, it's about mastering your own emotions and actions. This self-mastery is at the heart of Stoicism and is crucial for maintaining dignity and respect in all your relationships. If you found value in today's video and the insights shared, I encourage you to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with more content like this. Your engagement helps us grow and continue to bring you thoughtful discussions.